I moved into the duplex across from him on a Tuesday. By Friday, I realized I'd never seen him lock his front door. Most people would have forgotten about it, but I couldn't. The neighborhood wasn't the kind of place where people left doors open. It wasn't dangerous exactly, just normal. Packages disappeared once in a while. Teenagers tried car doors at night, and somebody stole lawn decorations every Halloween. It was the kind of suburb where everyone had a video doorbell and still reminded each other to lock up before bed. So when I noticed my new neighbor pulling into his driveway, grabbing groceries, and walking straight inside without touching the deadbolt, it stuck with me. I figured maybe he'd forgotten, but the next morning while walking my dog I looked over and the door was still open. His name was Caleb, late 30s, maybe 40, always clean-shaven, wearing khakis and blue button-down shirts, the sort of face that disappeared from your memory 5 seconds after you saw it. There was nothing memorable about him except the door. The first month nobody mentioned it. The second month everyone did. You ever notice Caleb never locks up? My next-door neighbor Melissa asked while we collected our mail. I thought I was imagining it. Nope. Amazon left a laptop there yesterday. It sat outside until almost midnight. Nobody touched it. That's lucky. She shrugged. Or weird. The strange part wasn't that nobody stole anything. It was that nobody even approached the porch. Delivery drivers dropped packages and immediately left. Kids cutting across lawns unconsciously avoided the walkway. Even dogs seemed to pull their owners past the house without stopping. I only realized it after weeks of watching from my living room window. Nobody lingered, not once. Caleb wasn't antisocial. He waved, shoveled snow for elderly neighbors, helped jumpstart my car one freezing morning, laughed easily, and never talked too much. If anything, he was unusually pleasant. Somehow that made the unlocked door feel even stranger. One Saturday afternoon I finally asked, "You know your door's open?" He looked back at it. "Oh, I know. You should probably lock it." I found worrying doesn't change much. Then he picked up his groceries and went inside. Door still open, conversation over. Normal people accept answers like that. I didn't. Something about it bothered me in a way I couldn't explain. Maybe because it felt rehearsed, maybe because he answered too quickly, or maybe because I wanted there to be more. Once I started paying attention, I couldn't stop. His lights came on every evening at exactly 6:17. The bedroom light went off at 10:42. The kitchen light stayed on all night, every night, weekends included, even when he wasn't home. Timers, I assumed. Perfectly reasonable. Still, who programmed lights down to the minute? I started noticing other things. He never ordered food delivery, never had overnight guests, never played music, and never watched television loud enough for anyone outside to hear. The only sounds coming from the house were ordinary ones. Running water, cabinet doors, footsteps, always ordinary. Melissa joked that he had to be in witness protection. Another neighbor guessed he worked for the government. The retired guy across the street claimed Caleb was probably just lonely. Everyone had theories. None lasted very long. Life moved on. Mine didn't. I'd catch myself checking whether his porch light was on before brushing my teeth. I'd glance across the street whenever I left for work. If his car wasn't there, I'd wonder why. It became a habit before I realized it. Then, it became something worse. One evening, I walked my dog past his house. The front door stood open again. I could see straight through the hallway, empty, quiet. Caleb? Nothing. I should have kept walking. Instead, I stood there, listening. The house smelled faintly of coffee. A fan hummed somewhere inside. Nothing else. I took one step toward the porch, then stopped. Not because I heard anything, but because suddenly I felt embarrassed. What exactly was I doing? Spying on a man because he didn't use a deadbolt? I laughed at myself and went home. That should have been the end of it. Instead, it made everything worse, because I realized I'd crossed a line, and once you cross one, the next becomes easier. I searched public records, property records, old newspaper archives, nothing unusual. No criminal history, no lawsuits, no dramatic past. He'd bought the house 6 years earlier, worked remotely for an insurance company, paid taxes, renewed his vehicle registration on time, completely average. That bothered me most. Average people don't accidentally become mysteries. Winter arrived. One night the power went out across the neighborhood. Every house went dark except Caleb's. His lights stayed on, not brighter, not different, just on. People stepped outside. 10 minutes later the neighborhood power returned. Nobody mentioned his house. Apparently I was the only one who'd noticed. The next morning I asked, "Generator?" He smiled. "Battery backup." "For the whole house?" "I work from home." Reasonable. Again. Always reasonable. By spring I knew I'd become obsessed. I wasn't proud of it. I simply couldn't explain why every answer felt like it covered something else. Then came the police. 2 patrol cars stopped outside his house around noon. No sirens, just lights. Officers knocked. Caleb answered immediately. The door was already open. They talked for maybe 15 minutes, shook hands, and the officers left. No arrest, no search, nothing dramatic. Melissa texted me. "Did you see?" Of course I had. I spent the entire afternoon inventing explanations. None fit. A week later, I ran into one of the officers at the grocery store. "What happened with my neighbor?" He hesitated. "Nothing serious. You'd be amazed how often we get wellness calls. Because of the unlocked door." He looked surprised. "So that's the rumor?" "What rumor?" He shook his head. "Never mind." That sentence sat in my head for days. "So, that's the rumor?" Meaning, there was another one. 3 weeks later I found out. Not because anyone told me, because Caleb told me himself. He knocked on my door holding a package. Wrong address. I thanked him. Before he left I finally asked, "The police? What about them? Were they checking on you?" He looked at me for several seconds. "No." "What were they doing?" "They wanted to know why strangers kept reporting suspicious activity at my house." "Oh." I asked, "What activity?" He paused. "They said someone had been documenting my routine for months." Every muscle in my body tightened. Photos, notes, vehicle movements, delivery schedules, when lights turned on, when they turned off, when I left, when I came home. They thought someone might be preparing to rob me. He smiled politely. They advised me to lock the door. I couldn't think of anything to say. "So, why don't you?" "Because whoever was watching expected me to." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "If someone wants certainty, denying it to them is surprisingly effective. An unlocked door raises questions. People keep watching the door, they stop watching everything else." I stared at him. "I've spent years studying human attention. I learned something. When people think they've found the answer, they stop asking better questions." He thanked me again for taking the package and walked home. Door still unlocked. That night I couldn't sleep. His words kept replaying. Photos, notes, vehicle movements, exactly the things I'd been tracking. Not because I planned anything, because I wanted to solve a puzzle. At least that's what I told myself. The next morning I deleted the folder on my phone. Hundreds of pictures disappeared. His porch, his lights, his driveway, even timestamps I'd written in a notes app. Seeing it all together made me sick. If someone else had shown me that collection, I'd have assumed they were dangerous. Yet I'd built it one harmless observation at a time. A month later, Caleb moved away. No farewell party, no moving company. Just one rented truck. By sunset the house was empty. The new owners arrived 2 weeks later. A young couple, 2 kids, a golden retriever. They installed a smart lock before bringing in furniture. Everyone commented on it. "Finally," Melissa laughed. "They'll keep the place secure." I laughed too, because that's what normal neighbors do. 6 months passed. Life returned to normal. Mostly. Sometimes I'd still glance at the empty porch out of habit, then catch myself, then look away. Even today I can't stop thinking about that open front door. It still bothers me. Maybe there was a reason behind it, maybe there wasn't, but even now, I find myself wondering, do you have a logical explanation for why he always left it unlocked?